Hello, 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 and welcome to this video. So, the Oscars happened yesterday and made so little of a splash that I've not seen much discussion of them. And I think that this is a very, very good thing because the cultural relevance of the Oscars is something I have been waiting to see die for a very, very long time. Because really, what are you watching and celebrating when you watch the Oscars? You are watching an industry insider event being broadcast on television that you have been told by the media is important, and you're watching all of these fat cats and snobs pat themselves on the back. Well, fat cats and snobs, amongst other crimes, pat themselves on the back for how amazing and successful they are. It's no more interesting or relevant to your life than watching a Lotus Eaters Awards ceremony that would happen at the end of each year where we pat ourselves on the back for what a good job we do presenting things. Although, to be fair, I'm sure a number of you would want to watch that, and I've no doubt it would be far more interesting because there would be a lot more bants and a lot less 5 hours of nothing happening. So, yeah, I mean, I just looked through this. This is the awards that have been given out. Like, directing is mainly the one that I get interested in, and I've not heard of this film, not heard of this director, not heard of any of these people, really, other than James Mangold, because I know that he directed Logan back in 2017, which was, to be fair, a very good film. But this cultural stagnation and irrelevance of the Oscars seems to be sticking outside of just my own spheres as well, because the ratings for the Oscars either seem to dip each year or stay relatively the same year on year since maybe 2015, which suggests to me that the relevance of the Oscars is something that's being pushed by inertia of an older generation of people who remember when it was much more interesting and relevant to their lives, maybe back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and stay as dedicated viewers year on year. But as those people begin to die off or lose interest, the likelihood is this is not something that's going to carry on being as relevant. And one of the aspects that takes on is the culture war element of the Oscars. And even outside of the culture war, you try and tune in maybe if you've heard about some controversy going down like a few years ago with Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. But there's nothing really like that that's gone on this year, which is why you see people reheating the same old grifty controversies from the culture war again and again and again. So here's End Wokeness in 2023, saying that the Best Picture 2024 will have inclusivity rules, which, yes, are still in place, where you have to have underrepresented, basically oppression hierarchy stack groups as at least 30% of the cast. You know, very, very intersectional, what we've come to expect by now. And he posted the same thing in 2024, following the Oscars, and he got 16,000 likes, and he posted the same thing today, getting 11,000 likes. And again, this isn't that interesting to me. Of course, it's liberal Hollywood. They're going to have all of the intersectional, progressive BS, wokeness that we've come to expect from them, and that's going to keep happening. But if you thought the Oscars were an objective measure of quality in the first place, then I hate to break it to you, it's always been about lobbying the Academy themselves. There are dinners that you go to. There are these pre-Oscar meetups where everybody goes in and lobbies and rubs shoulders with each other. So really, it's a schmooze fest. It's always been about who can schmooze the best to the Academy so that you can get your picture nominated and get your picture awarded. For whatever category you're going for. If you're a director, you're going to want to schmooze for Best Director. It's as simple as that. And if you need the Oscar ceremony, again, an insider backslapping affair, to tell you that your favorite film that year was the best film that year, then you need to have some more confidence in your own judgment. You need to be able to say, listen, I've got my taste, I've got my standards, I hold myself to them. I don't need some kind of weird insider consensus to tell me that a film I thought was great, you know? And outside of those controversies that keep getting reheated, well, the worst thing that I've seen really is that a 2018 video of Robert De Niro at the Tony Awards, not even the Oscars, going up and saying, F Trump, got shared about with people treating it as though he said it last night at the Oscars. This was, of course, very quickly corrected, and people said this isn't even the same award show, let alone the same year. But it just goes to show how desperate people are for some kind of controversy to talk about the Oscars, because really now in the cultural zeitgeist, they feel like something that should be much more important than they are, because we've got that holdover from previous generations who did see it as this big cultural event. And it just isn't anymore. And on the basis of what I was talking about with whether or not you should judge your own tastes by what the Oscars tell you, consider this. My favorite director of all time, rest in peace to him, David Lynch, was nominated for Best Director a number of times for The Elephant Man in 1980, Blue Velvet in 86, Mulholland Drive in 2001. Did he win? No. My other favorite director, Stanley Kubrick, who I think, David Lynch can be a bit hit and miss for people, or they don't like his style. Stanley Kubrick is very widely acknowledged by many people as being one of the greatest directors to ever live, if not the greatest in many cases. Did he ever win Best Picture? No. Did he ever win Best Director? No. In 1969, 2001, A Space Odyssey, one of the most groundbreaking films ever made, was passed over for Best Director. What won instead? Oliver by Carol Reed. I'm sure it's a great film. Maybe it's even a brilliant film. Maybe if it had been released any other year, it would have deserved to win. But it was up against 2001: A Space Odyssey. So no, it didn't deserve to win. Blue Velvet, 1986, nominated for the 1987 Oscar Awards. What won instead? Platoon by Oliver Stone. Not even the best Vietnam film that came out that year, which was, interestingly enough, Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket. Platoon it's okay. I'm not an Oliver Stone guy. I think he's a very annoying director, if I'm frankly honest about it. Full Metal Jacket's a Vietnam masterpiece, an anti-war masterpiece. Blue Velvet is one of the most surreal films to ever enter the mainstream zeitgeist, and it is a masterpiece. But no, Oliver Stone was able to schmooze in a way that David Lynch and Stanley Kubrick, probably given their very unique personalities, never could. And so, if you are trying to judge the Oscars by its ability to pick out the best films, you're going into it wrong. If you're going to go into the Oscars with the hopes that there's going to be some major controversy every year, maybe, but you shouldn't bank on it. So really, what we're seeing is the slow death of the Oscars as a culturally relevant force. At least that's what I'm hoping. And I hope to see the lack of interest in it move on year and year until eventually nobody talks about it at all. And I know I'm talking about it right now, but I hope to never have to discuss it ever again. Thanks for watching. Take care.